and it just adds to the complexity, And I think, because when Keaton was interviewed about it, he said that no, really, it wasn't about Batman. It's really about Bruce Wayne, because with Batman, it's extremely restrictive for the actor because you can't move, you can't make any body gestures. You can only your mouth can be seen and a bit of your eyes, but your eyes obviously colored by black. So really, especially when guys who go to theater school and drama school, a lot of acting is pretty much about how you express your body and your words. So everything is holistically one, your body and your words. So, really the key thing of making you try to understand Batman was Bruce Wayne. And here's how Keaton is better than anybody as Bruce Wayne. Because for Keaton, as his Bruce Wayne, when you see the way he interacted with, in the party with, Vicky Vale and Nax, he just seemed, like very normal. Like, okay, this was like a regular billionaire guy who, like, he'll talk blah blah like that and everything, But you always have a sense feeling that okay, this guy there's something in him. And then you then see another level, another layer when you see how he reacts to Alfred. And then you just see that there's just that subtle bit of this guy, there's something really deep within him, and he only shows this deepness with Alfred, the guy who he really trusts and the guy who really knows that he's Batman. But that kind of subtle side, it doesn't really show when he talks to people like Vicky Vale and when he appears in public, So there are different facets to his personality, and I think that just makes you feed into yes, there is something really deep about his Batman character. But then when you see people like Val Kilmer pretty much was just like he was just being over Val Kilmer. Clooney, I don't think that anything has to be said. Clooney, I'm sure he's a nice guy and everything, but Clooney. And now the thing with Bale is that many people talk about how Bale is his Batman is a bit weird, but his Bruce Wayne is far superior. The problem with Bale's Bruce Wayne is that it's extremely good acting, but it doesn't make any sense. Because it's almost, in a strange way, it's almost one-dimensional. It's almost like he's trying too hard. And when you see the scene when he talks about, I'm only fresh and proud in the plane, and just his whole mannerism, especially in Begins, in TDK, he was just plain boring. But when you look at his mannerisms in Begins, it's like, it's almost too obvious. Okay, yeah, so there's obviously something wrong with you because you're trying too hard to be a bit too weird and strange. There's no subtlety. There's, okay, yes, this guy's obviously very weird, But it's like, it's almost trying too hard. So it almost feels cheap. But for Keaton, he knew that, he knew that, just trying to act straight off weird would just be like, okay, it's just so obvious. But I think the key thing of what Keaton understood was that this guy is trying to be not normal. He's trying to be like a regular guy, and he still, at the very core, is still just a regular guy. Yes, he is strange and he's still very weird, but there still has to be some sense of normality within him. And mixed with that, within that normality is a mystery. Is a bit of deepness in there, and that's why people don't really appreciate what Keaton was doing with his Bruce Wayne. As like his Bruce Wayne made more sense than Bale's Bruce Wayne, because his Bruce Wayne was a guy who you always thinking that, man, there's something wrong with this guy, and that's just through his eyes and through his aura and just through his expression that you always think that, man, there's something up with this guy. That's what is it with this guy? But for Bale, there is no space for you to really be thinking that what is up with this guy, because he's basically telling you that, okay, yes, I'm weird. So there's a lack of subtlety there, which I think is important to making the character a lot more interesting. But I think really, again, why that works and the Batman character works is like, you really feel like if there is a strong difference between Batman and Joker in this film. Because already in TDK it was all about Heath Ledger in that film. But I think in this film, the contrast worked really well because, for me, when I was watching, I was like, you just have one guy who's a clown, who's mad, and he just spends his time talking, just talks, and he's just mad. So this guy, he just never shuts up because he's just such a mad, larger-than-life guy. But you then have the other guy who he's dark and he hardly says anything, and he's very focused, and that's just the perfect contrast. So when you just see them come together in the finale, it's an extremely interesting confrontation, because these are just guys from two totally different psychologies, and they both share the fact that they're both strange. One dressed up as a bat and another guy who's basically like a clown and who's just mad. But I think it's interesting because they're totally different guys. One person is completely mad and just is an extrovert, and another guy is a massive introvert who is very quiet. And again, that just makes it interesting, and that just really makes their relationship through the film very interesting. But I think really, again, another important point that people need to understand is lighting. People say, okay, what the hell is that about? But I think Ridley Scott is a guy who really talks a lot about the importance of lighting. And when you look at any of his films like Gladiator, Alien, Blade Runner, lighting is actually extremely important. And again, this goes back to the whole argument about the visuals and how visuals can make you feel a certain way. Because when Ridley Scott, you look at any of his films, he really focuses a lot about lighting, and he even talks a lot about different lights, and he's basically like a master of the different lights that you need to use. And you see him talking, like he can talk for hours and hours about just how you can get different lighting to basically produce different visual effects. And I think, again, you saw how important Burton lighted the Batman character. Because people say, oh, but he didn't understand Batman, blah, blah, like that. But I noticed, like, the only person that has fully understood Batman more than anybody is Burton. Because people need to, watch that film again and look at how Batman is presented in every scene. He's always in the shadows. There are the times when you can only see his eyes, you can't even see his mouth. He's always dark. He's always, like, hidden, And that's because, Burton knew that, man, every single time we've got to see Batman, we've got to feel a certain way. We always have to feel that mystery, that darkness, that concealment about the guy. So every single time you're seeing him, you're like, man, what is this guy? And it makes you feel a certain way. It makes you feel that, yeah, man, this guy, he's a very dark, silent, quiet guy who doesn't always want to be seen, But and again, you look at stuff like Batman Forever and Batman and Robin. Batman is basically fully bright. I think in Batman Robin he was wearing like white metal or something like that. It was ridiculous. Hey, freeze! And again, it's like you look at in Begins and TDK. It's like the mystery was gone. There was no emotion you could really have towards the character. There were some scenes that were good, but I think in Begins and Dark Knight, it was just pretty much like, okay, this is just a guy wearing a costume. Just okay. And especially in TDK, just felt like, okay, this is just a man wearing a Bat's costume. And then you just think that, yeah, this is just pretty stupid. First of all, it's a man wearing a Bat's costume talking in a weird, trollish voice. But then you look at what Burton and Keaton did, and I think, again, you have to really think about you have to really appreciate what Burton and Keaton were going for in the character, especially Keaton, because Keaton knew that this what this guy is wearing. That we can't really present it that he's just wearing a bad costume and that's it. When you just see the way his eyes move, the way he operates, the way he delivers the words, it's like he's almost like a spectral figure, like an otherworldly figure, like a guy who's not really on, in our world. He's somewhere else. And I think, what Burton and Keaton were trying to do with the Batman character was he was just almost a fantastical figure, someone that wasn't really quite real, So you're always feeling at the audience member that, that yet, like, there really is a gap between this Bruce Wayne and Batman. There is a middle ground that's connecting them. But once you see Batman, he's like almost like if Bruce Wayne is pretty much transforming into this character that's almost immortal. That's almost immortal. Again, I just say, watch the film again. Watch it again and watch it close. And you really have to watch Keaton's performance close. That it just really gives you those emotions that this guy, is really trying to elevate the character into something a lot more ambiguous.